My name is Adam Carter. I am actually relatively new to OCtech. I spent about 10 years out in the industry. I worked for one of our local partners, Zeus Industrial Products, and I developed a passion for instructing. So I think there's a big misconception whenever people hear the word machine tool technology. They don't exactly know what to think. So the first thing I want to begin by explaining what machine tool technology is. So machine tool technology is the study of machining various types of material. We're going to utilize both manual and programmable computer numeric controls. So we get to do, even like you were hearing from David earlier, that they create their guitars and things like that. Well, we do the same thing, but we do this on an industrial level. So if you look at any type of item that you have, whether it be your cell phone that you have right there, whether it be the computer that you're looking at, no matter what it is, whether it's an automobile or any part or any man-made structure, somehow was affected by some type of machinist out in the industry. So what we do is we actually take raw chunks of material and we use different cutters, different instruments to actually cut away this material and form it into a finished part. So the big misconception that we have out in the industry right now is that machine tool technology is a dirty environment. It's a unair conditioned, heated place, that it's a very laborious type, kind of what you heard Waylon talking about. Exactly, it's the opposite. I would say that probably 80% of the industries that develop into machine tool technology, they're climate controlled. They have some sort of crane or lifting system if you're working with heavy objects. And it's just a wonderful field to get into. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I forgot to go ahead and do that to begin with. So let's go with that. And let me make that full screen right. All right. Can y'all see what I'm seeing?
Yes, sir.
All right. So we went into what is machine tool. All right. So some of the machines that you'll actually see out in the field, this is actually a relative new machine that we just purchased here going into our program, that the school and the state has actually invested almost $2 million into renovating and updating our equipment and our labs so that we can get up to date with what the current industry is doing. This right here is an example of a Doosan lathe, and this is some of the actual programming and coding that we're able to do in this system. So a lot of times when we look at machine tool technology, a lot of students, potential students, are worried about the math coming in here. And as most of the other instructors here have told you, there are gen eds that you're going to have to take coming in. So that will be some basic math. You do have to take a psychology class. And then we do have our own little math, machine tool application math. But I don't want students to get too hung up on that. A lot of times what we introduce into there is we're using things like CAD and CAM and different softwares that will actually do a lot of that math for us. So the beauty that I always tell people about the machine tool technology trade is that we get to see almost every aspect that you're hearing about today. So we go from the basic engineering where they're actually creating a blueprint for us to make a part. We take it and we actually take that raw stock and we make the part from scratch. Well, when we start talking about productivity and things like that, the industry has heavily started to lean into the robotics, as you heard Mackie talking about earlier. So we start integrating things like cobots and things into our production and all that. Well, we go even further into that and we start talking about processing and stamping. We start going into a wire EDM. That's a beautiful new machine that we have attained. It actually takes a little small piece of wire and it threads it between two heads and it puts electricity through that wire and it burns away the material to create whatever shape you actually program it to. It's an amazing piece of technology. So I also want to go a little bit into what our industry is looking for in a potential student. So the number one thing that I have heard from local industry that they look for is a good work ethic. Now, whenever we talk about work ethic, we're not talking about running around hurting yourself trying to get things done as fast as possible. We're talking more about applying yourself. I've talked to numerous companies that what they're looking for is somebody that's trying to better themselves each and every day. So if you're that type of go-getter that wants to learn and continually learn, I've been in this industry for over a decade and I still learn new things every day. You're never going to know everything in this industry. So work ethic is a key. I mean, when we start talking about money and things like that, whenever it's time to give out raises, a lot of these companies are working to look at your work ethic. So what we try to tell our students is that we want you to actually shape your own destiny. The money that you can make in this industry is amazing. You can start out in a various array of different type of applications, and your money can range depending on whether you're at an entry level or whether you have 10 or 12 years of experience. And I'll get a little bit more into that eventually. So the second thing that the industry has told me that they're looking for in prospective employees is people that have a little bit of creativity. So when we're looking for our students, we want you to come in and ask questions. We take parts and we make odd shaped things. So we might not just have a piece of round stock. It might end up as an oval or an egg shaped part. We actually take these things into account. So we have to have some way to fixture these parts into our systems. So if you look at the screen right here, we have different cutters, we have different elements to each section. So this right here is actually showing the inside of that Doosan lathe that you saw earlier. Well, once you process that part, if you end up making an egg shape, you have to be creative on how you're going to hold the back end to process the backside. Third and final thing that I've really heard from industry that they're looking for is an attention to detail. So when we start making these parts, we can hold a tolerance that if you take a hair off of your head and you divide it 30 times, we can hold a tolerance that's tighter than that. So attention to detail comes very much into play with these local industries, because if you leave a chip in a vise, if you put in a wrong decimal point when we start getting into CNC machines, it can have huge impacts on the results of your product. So a perfect example of this is that a lot of industries nowadays are looking for that plus or minus 5 thousandths tolerance. And that is not very much whenever you actually get into the field and start learning this. So if you take a part and you put a 0.05 into your computer instead of a 0.005, you're talking about 10 times the amount of tolerance as what originally was. So our companies are looking very heavily for people who can pay very much attention to detail. So what companies hire our students? Well, a lot of places that we have locally are those like Phoenix Specialty. Zeus is actually a company that I worked for the last 10 years. Whitman Mold, Husqvarna, there's American Tool and Die. There's so many different companies locally, but you are not limited to that. Just as a lot of the other instructors have told you, is that we are in almost a melting pot. You go down south, you're going towards Charleston, you go up, you go to Columbia, you can go to Greenville. You have opportunities throughout the industry with so many different partners. And the beauty of this is that you can create your own niche, your own little section of where you want to go. You're not limited into just machining. There might be somebody that gets in here and they say, hey, I like the quality aspect of this. Well, they might go into a quality lab. Well, there might be somebody that loves engines or brake housings or anything like that, and they might go into more of an automotive type field. They might have some people that enjoy making rockets. I mean, a lot of people now are big into Elon Musk and the SpaceX program. So the possibilities coming out from our degree program are pretty much limitless. You can go anywhere from aerospace to medical grade to automotive. Like I said earlier, you get to see a little bit of every aspect of every program that we offer here. So here's the big question that y'all are probably waiting on. So what exactly is the starting rate for somebody coming out of our program? Well, generally, what we've seen from local industry is anywhere from $18 to $24 an hour. But I have seen numerous people that within 10 years, if you're using that work ethic, that creativity, that attention to detail, and you're progressing, I've seen people within 10 years that are making 80, 90, $100,000 a year, a really comfortable lifestyle. So if you have any questions about this, please don't hesitate to contact me. My email is right here. It's carterca@octech.edu. My phone number is 803-535-1297. I will say we are in a little bit of a transition. We're going from the J building down to the T building. So you'll probably find me in one of those locations. But if you leave me a message, I will get back to you as soon as I can. Just like Fred said, we can set up a meeting. We can have you come down, discuss, and kind of look over some of the machines, see if this is really what you're interested in.